Hey, it's Owen Bigland. This is the Inside Edge video blog. Not the happiest of subjects this time, but one that I get a lot of questions on from both buyers and sellers. And that has to do with what we call a stigmatized property. Now, keep it simple, a stigmatized property is where something bad, something negative has happened in the property. Now, the main one, of course, is someone died. And what constitutes a stigmatized property for one person might not constitute a stigmatized property for another person. And I've found that out over the years. I know my personal beliefs on it are much different than a lot of other people. When you're living or operating in Richmond, of course, as we all know, a lot of my buyers are going to be Chinese clients. They definitely tend to have, in my opinion anyways, more of an interest and more questions regarding if the property has been stigmatized. So I'll walk you through a few different scenarios from both sides, from the buying and selling side. So, I have had many properties over the years where unfortunately someone has died. Now, I think a lot of people would be surprised. People unfortunately have to die somewhere. And I think a lot of people would be surprised how many people do die peacefully in their home. May die in a hospital as well, but a lot of people do unfortunately die in the home. So I suggest when you're a buyer, you should always ask questions, especially if you're not dealing at arm's length with the seller. In most cases, people buying homes or condos, you are dealing at arm's length with the seller. You've got a realtor, you've got a husband and wife that are selling it, you know they're alive, so you still should ask questions, but the chances of anything being stigmatized are a lot less, at least as far as death goes. But I've been on both sides of it. Now, I've had a lot of listings over the years where I'm working with a trustee, power of attorney, I'm working with a bank. They have signing authority or they're the owners of the property. Now, when I list these homes, a lot of the times they don't give me any information at all about who the seller is. I know who the seller's name is. Let's say it's Mrs. Smith. But I don't know anything about her. I don't know whether she's in a home, if she's in a mental institution, she could be in a hospice, or she could be deceased. Now, how I get a lot of this information usually is when I list the home and I show up for one of my first showings or show up to do some photographs or measurements or my first open house, I'll usually meet the neighbors. The neighbors are curious and they'll come over and introduce themselves, and you're the realtor, yes, and of course, did you know Mrs. Smith? And they knew Mrs. Smith. Is she okay? What's her situation? A lot of times it'll be, oh, lovely lady, she's at the Maples in a senior's home, or she's in a hospice, or she's in the hospital, she's fallen ill, she's still alive though, or in some cases she's passed away. And the next question, of course, is, did she pass away at home? And yes, sometimes I get those. She's passed away peacefully in bed at home, the home that I'm selling, or a lot of times she passed away in the hospital or at a senior's home or a hospice of some sort. Now, when I've been given that type of information, I now know, let's say for instance, that Mrs. Smith did die in the unit. If a potential buyer comes to me with his agent, that agent or that buyer asks me, they can see that I'm dealing with a trustee, power of attorney, whatever. Has anyone died in the unit? I now know that yes, according to the neighbors, Mrs. Smith did die. I then have to disclose that. And I would tell them, to the best of my knowledge from what I've been told, at least by the neighbors, yes, Mrs. Smith did die in the unit. Now, is that a stigmatized property? For some buyers, I can tell you they do a 90-degree turn and they're out of there. For other people, hey, okay, thanks for letting me know. Good thing we asked. So it all depends on the person, what constitutes stigmatized. Now, for me personally, if I found a home, priced right, good neighborhood, everything lined up, wrote the offer, and then I found out that the owner had died, the next question would be, well, how did they die? If they died peacefully in their sleep, it wouldn't be a deal breaker for me. That's just me. If Mrs. Smith was unfortunately murdered, that would be a deal breaker for me. Unless, of course, me or my client was planning on tearing down the house. In some cases, it would still probably affect the price. But a lot of times that's how deals do get done. It's a tear down house anyways, and if there was foul play, hey, a builder will come in, there's a price for everything, and they're tearing down the house, and that would maybe get or at least lessen the stigmatization on the house. But for me, someone died peacefully in their sleep, it wouldn't be a deal breaker. But for a lot of people it would. So everybody interprets it differently. Now I can tell you some interesting stuff. I've always had offers over the years where they've written it in that they want in writing in the contract of purchase and sale. If we've known of any grow ops, that's always been in there. If it's ever been a meth lab or anything like that. So a lot of times that's in an offer. But I've gotten a few lately in the last couple of years, and I'll read one offer that I just got on a house that I've got in Terra Nova. And this one, they want to know if there's any non-physical property issues, such as ghosts, deaths, suicides, naked neighbors, that one I haven't seen, murders, remediated grow-ops, that may be important issues to some but not all buyers. So it's saying that if I am aware of those, of course, I have to disclose those any of those known stigmatizations on the property. So stigmatized properties, they're out there. If you're a buyer, it definitely pays to ask some questions. And keep in mind though that a realtor, if he's working through a trustee or a bank or a third party, if he knows of these things, they have to disclose it. But in some cases, remember, a realtor might not know. In a lot of these cases, they just don't know who the client is or what's happened. But as I say, a lot of times I don't get that, but for the most part, once I list the home, the neighbors are all over the place. They're at the open house, and I can usually get a fair bit of information from them that way. And when I do have that information, I have to disclose what I heard. It still may not be true. For all I know, Mrs. Smith may not have died, but according to the neighbors, she did, and I'll disclose that to them. Stigmatized properties. As always, I'm Owen Bigland. Thanks for watching. I got houses to sell. I'll see you next time.